Good morning, Giants. Welcome to the Park Bench. It's Nick Smith. I'm here with Angie Garr Barnett. Did I say that right? Barnett,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
you did. Yeah.
And you'll recognize Angie. She was a guest on Wake Up with Giants TV. And today we're going to take a little different approach to the Park Bench. Instead of doing full-on coaching, today we're going to have a conversation around it. And so our topic is going to be on anxiety. And so as you comment, this time we are going to bring those in. In most cases, when it's coaching, I ignore that just so I can focus on you. And Angie, we might do a little coaching here. We'll see.
Yeah, whatever.
Does that
I'm
work?
down. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
welcome to the bench. Now you're a benchy.
Yes, I'm a benchy. I always wanted to be a benchy.
Yeah, not a banshee
Yes.
though, right?
No.
A little
We don't want to
different?
be banshee, so
Yeah,
that's not good. I don't know.
awesome.
My kids would probably tell you that sometimes I am. No, I'm kidding.
I think I probably am too. I think there are days where I just want to be a banshee.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, let's dive into it. Let's go right into what anxiety is. Let me have you define what anxiety means to you.
Well, this is something I was thinking about last night. I personally feel like, for me, anxiety is a state of unrest, and it has to do with feeling a lack of control of what either has been, is, or will be,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And that's where my anxiety tends to stem from, is and it's fear based, right? Because anxiety, I think it means a lot of different things for a lot of different people, and I don't think that that's wrong. I don't think there's, it's a matter of what does it mean to you, right? Like my
Yeah.
definition is because of my experiences that mine means what it does. So mine is based out of kind of a need for to be able to I don't want to, to control something in my
Right.
life.
Okay. So that loss of control leads to what can you describe what anxiety feels like for you?
Yes, actually. Well, there's a combination. I was diagnosed with PTSD
Okay.
and a combination of anxiety and depression, just from, some traumatic experiences that I've had in my life. And
Right.
for me, it manifests in varying ways. Like, for instance, I'll have, I can have a full-on panic attack where I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I actually get something of a physical tic. And my mind is racing, my heart is pounding. I feel like I want to throw up. Like, I get shaky. It just is the feeling of it, how, I don't know, it's almost like everything accelerates
Okay.
with me,
Yeah.
everything accelerates, just that feeling jittery, like you've had, too much caffeine or something like that. But yeah, so
So
that's how it
let
goes
me
for
ask
me.
you on that because a lot of people watching maybe don't know your story. They haven't seen the interview.
Yeah.
And so your PTSD, and I had a therapist tell me that complex PTSD, that all PTSD is complex,
Yeah.
that it tends to last over time. And that's the difference is PTSD is generally a sudden onset of trauma.
Yeah.
And then complex is over time.
Right.
And so, yeah. So with you, can you kind of give some backstory, just a brief backstory on where that trauma came from?
Yeah. Well, it came from like kind of a combination of things. I was married for 20 years, and he dealt with addiction. So that was extremely intense. Over that time, I dealt with some health problems, and towards the end of my marriage, I had, let's see, was it 18 surgeries? To get rid of some infection that I had, and 16 of those surgeries were on my left leg, including 3 amputations. So I am a mid-thigh amputee, and there's a lot of anxiety that goes into surgeries, as most people know or could imagine. So I've had 40 total surgeries and procedures now in my
Wow.
life. So, yeah, it was kind of, I've gone through some things, and, not bad mouthing anybody, trying, you just, you play the cards as best as you can, you play the cards you're dealt. So,
Yeah, and my experience of you is you try to be positive. Like that interview was amazing.
oh,
Um,
thank you.
because you
I love
spread,
doing it.
yeah, you spread so much positivity, but you also are struggling daily with anxiety.
Sure. Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's on the surface you might appear like you're fine, but underneath it you've got this raging torrent in a way
Yeah,
of
there's a
energy.
battle. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yep.
battle for sure. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
battle.
So I want to talk about the word anxiety. I was looking it up, the etymology of the word, because what we try and do is we try and create. I'm listening to an amazing book about metaphors and how every word we use is a metaphor to explain our experience. And
Yes.
so we took these intonations, these tones, these sounds, and we turned them into words. And then we try and use those words to project what we're experiencing. And so that somebody else can experience that with us, because we come to this commonality called a word and we say, yeah, I understand that the way you do,
Right.
or at
Right.
least close enough that I get an idea of what you're talking about. The word anxiety, what I love about it is the first part of it, the ANGH, comes
Uh-huh.
from the Latin. It's restriction, it's
Mhm.
tightness, it's a
Yeah.
feeling of loss of control. Like you say, it's just everything's
Yeah.
closing in on you.
Yeah.
So anger comes from the same root.
Right.
Anxiety, angst, they're all
Yeah.
from the same energy. And I've always heard that anger is a secondary emotion. So fear and depression or sadness come first, but we express it as anger because it's an emotion of action. And so
Okay.
when we feel
Yeah.
that restriction and that closing in, that anger comes in and it moves us out of it in some form. It might not be healthy, but it's designed to get us into action. And so when we
Okay.
feel angry, like that closing in, that right?
Yeah.
We move out from it. So I want to disclose too. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder,
Okay.
and I was told I have complex PTSD. And
Yeah,
I was
that's super
really
heavy.
nervous because the symptoms of complex PTSD and PTSD come up similar to other illnesses like borderline personality disorder. And they
Uh-huh.
can be really unhealthy for
Yeah.
relationships and people around you. And so I'd gone about 10 years of just straight anxiety, and my mind couldn't stop. I couldn't get it to stop. And
Sure.
so I went in and tried anything I could. I did get on meds for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I came off of them because I hated how I felt on them.
Right.
Yeah, I felt so loopy, and I know that meds serve some people and others.
Yeah,
You really have to choose, and I think it's important to talk to a professional around that. But
absolutely.
the anxiety is still there, so it still comes
Mhm.
up. And so, what I want to talk about are some of the tools that you've used to manage it. Like, what do you do when you get up in the morning? Do you feel anxiety first thing in the morning?
Um, Believe it or not, that's probably the only time I don't feel anxiety,
Okay, all right,
which is super interesting.
yeah,
So, because I haven't, like, before I've like really got on my feet or foot, because I only have one, but
yeah, yeah.
like before I really got on my foot, um, I find that that's kind of when I'm probably at my calmest, is
Okay,
right when I wake up, because once I get going, it's like you say, I can't stop. And I have terrible, terrible insomnia. In fact,
okay,
I got about 2 hours of sleep last night. And the insomnia is something I've been dealing with for about 13 years. And it's really frustrating because gosh, my eyes are watering. I didn't expect to get
yeah,
emotional.
yeah. No,
But
let's do it.
it's something that has plagued me, and not having like a really good sleep schedule is something that I've always, craved. Like, I've always craved to have one, so not having one has always been such a problem for me. You know, for obvious reasons, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
anyway, there's pain in that. So
Okay, so that insomnia, this is important because Okay, so there's two sides of this. I get anxiety first thing in the morning. And
Interesting.
as I read about it, as I researched it, and that's what happens is it impacts me so much. I want to learn everything I can about it. So I'm
Yeah,
looking for
that's how I am.
solutions,
Yes.
right? So what I read was that the cortisol levels spike first thing in the morning,
Okay.
and the adrenaline, it's designed to wake you up. And so you get this
Mhm.
spike of adrenaline to wake you up, and then cortisol kicks in to kind of mellow it out and
Right.
offset adrenaline. But then too much cortisol in the body causes an issue, and it causes
Right.
it's supposed to relieve inflammation, but too much of it causes damage. And
Right.
so
See, that's
you get in
I
that
agree with
cycle,
that.
yeah, it spins through. So for me, first thing in the morning, I feel anxiety.
Okay.
Part of that might be from
I'm
coffee,
sorry.
right?
Right. Right.
But that you mentioned sleep, so I want to dive into sleep for a second. Tell me a little bit about your sleep schedule. What's, 2 hours of sleep, and then you've got to go through and try and function for the day.
Right.
Sleep is vital for being able to calm the body down. So
Yeah, it really
how do you
is.
make up for it?
Well, during the day, I usually will crash and take, a 3 hour nap or a 4 hour nap, which is not
Okay.
healthy. So, and that's when like the kids are at school or something like that, if I haven't been able to sleep. And like, I will say that I mean, I can think of one time that I actually went to bed was able to fall asleep before midnight in the
Mm.
last 2 weeks. Generally, it's around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, of course, the kids get up and going at 7. And then it's like, you know what I'm saying? Um,
Can I pause you real quick? Because
yeah.
you just said I take a 3 or 4 hour nap and it's
Mhm.
not healthy.
Yeah.
Why do you say that? Why is that not healthy? Why do you see that as not healthy?
Well, I think taking the nap isn't necessarily not healthy by nature because naps are healthy. It's the fact that I don't have a like I'm not sleeping at night in a consistent you know even like 6 or 7 hours, 8 hours in a row, um, so that my body can regenerate, heal. It can take down that inflammation. It can allow those cortisol levels to, you know, go down, and as opposed to like raging, throughout the day and throughout.
Okay.
Like it gives my body a chance to reset. I think that's probably the best word for it. and
Yeah.
and I feel like just a few hours in the afternoon isn't necessarily time to allow my body to reset. Now that's just a personal opinion, but
Yeah.
um
Can I offer a differing view on that?
yes.
So I want to explain the importance of sleep, because what happens is when you sleep, your body goes in and cleans up and it
Yeah.
clears out and it organizes and structures everything that you need. So it needs that rest so that your brain can take over.
Right.
Your brain never shuts off.
Right.
It's
Oh,
you
no,
go
no, no,
from
it
one state
doesn't.
of consciousness to another. And so what it does is it goes in and cleans up and structures and supports all those neural cells, any damage that was done. Somebody said that being awake is low level brain damage, and that sleep repairs that. And so if
Yeah.
you're not getting enough sleep, you're not repairing that brain damage enough to step into your day. And so you're playing catch up. And then your
Yeah.
body just says, look, we gotta do something. I'm going to shut you down. You're going to
Yeah.
sleep for 3 to 4 hours. And here's the
Right.
other thing that I see is that people think, well, I'm a night owl, or I'm not a morning person. I can't get up at 6 a.m. and go
Hmm.
to the schedule that society expects, which is a
Right.
problem, because if you want to hold a job, it can create conflict. If I need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
sleep 3 or 4 hours, then how am I going to hold a job if I can't even stay awake for it?
Sure.
And so
Sure.
what comes up in that for you? And I'll go on little rants. You can stop me, interrupt me.
No, you're
I'm
totally
totally
fine.
good.
And no, I'm
So
just thinking about what you're saying and processing it. Well, I think I agree with that actually. I mean, I feel like sleep is something that what is it? Okay, it's called the circadian rhythm, I
yep,
believe.
yep.
And it's out of order. And so I struggled. I have struggled for literally years to get mine back into order. And yes, there's an element of anxiety that comes into play with that, which is interesting because it's kind of cyclic. It's, I can't sleep, and so then I'm stressed, and then I'm stressing, I've got anxiety about how the fact I need to sleep and yet I can't. And so a bit like, then I don't know, it's just kind of like goes and goes and goes, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
anyway, so I don't know if that answered your question or
No,
not, but
that's good because um, I know people that are up till 2, 3 in the morning, and then they'll go
mhm,
to sleep, and they might sleep in. Like my kids, for example, my daughter will sleep till 1 o'clock in
right.
the afternoon, and she'll sleep straight through. She'll go to bed at like 10, 11 o'clock and wake up at 1. And I
Wow.
remember as a kid, there's so much development going on in the brain and so much cleanup. I can imagine how much sleep needs to be there. And then
Sure.
you get older and you don't need as much. So it's kind of a maintenance thing. So 6 to 8 hours is generally okay. But when you're getting 2 hours of sleep
Right.
and then you wake up and you're exhausted, you're running off fumes,
Yeah.
basically. Then
Yeah.
your body can't reset fully. And then you try and go to work and you're just dragging.
Right.
Um, so your body's just saying we got to rest. And so when you lay down, it's not a 20-minute nap. For me, it would be a 20-minute nap and I'd be reset and going. For
Yeah.
you, it's 3 to 4 hours because you're just not getting that sleep.
Exactly. Well, and it's like I have been chasing sleep, and it's interesting because there are times like maybe like once a week that I'll actually get like, when I don't have to take kids to school, or when I don't have obligations,
Yeah.
that I'll fall asleep at like, say, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and sleep through. And I mean, there's been times I'll either sleep for 2 or 3 hours and then take a couple of hours to kind of catch up during the day, or I will sleep for 12, 13 hours because my
Yeah.
body just
Yeah.
basically shuts down because I'm so tired.
It's like trying to close that gap. You get a 2 hour window and then you get a 13-hour window and you're trying to balance out, right? Just
Yeah,
bring it all into balance. And
exactly.
so I think one of the biggest things that people need to honor, because I can imagine that you have a lot of guilt and shame around shutting
Huge,
down for 3 to 4 hours.
huge, absolutely huge. Because
Yeah.
it's right at the peak times of like when people in society are being productive, and I don't necessarily have, you know, like a good reason. Like I can't give myself a good reason or an excuse to continue to keep doing what I'm doing. And no matter how hard I change it, my kids are always like, just stay up all night and then go to sleep the next day. You know what? I'll do that. I'll stay up all night. I'll go to bed, and I will lay there for 4 hours. And the next thing I know, it's 2 or 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I still haven't even dozed off. So um,
Right.
it's just it's a strange scenario, and I know
So,
that has the anxiety is the big factor in
well,
that.
so the anxiety around what other people think too. So being able to fit into society and culture and feeling different, because that was what kept me stuck in that cycle of anxiety. Is it wasn't acceptable. Like I wasn't in an environment where I could just be anxious and the other person I was with would be okay with it. Like they would
Right.
understand or have an empathy or, not necessarily sympathy, more empathy of, okay, I can understand what that's like for you. Let me support you as much as I can. And the challenge is it's not their responsibility to do that, but it
Right.
definitely helps when that person makes you feel guilty for or takes on that energy of judging you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you feel that, then
Yeah.
I spin up. I'm like, wow,
That's how I am.
yeah. So go into that a little bit, like the guilt and the shame.
Well, it's that matter of I mean, okay, I think some of that is rooted in the insomnia, and then there's a part of it that's rooted um into my disability, the lack of having a leg. And
Right.
so that, honestly, like, the most frustrating thing in the world is the fact that I crave to do things in a normal way. I don't know if that
Right.
makes any sense at all, but I used to be able to do so much, and I was a very active person. I'm obviously,
Mm.
quite energetic, and I've had, I have these amazing children, and I used to be running and gunning, and I was that kind of mom that I did everything Pinterest. I was the Pinterest mom. It was
Yeah,
super
yeah.
cheesy. And I were playing the shaving cream and making these weird sock bubbles and just, and it was so fun. And I had all this energy
Can
and
I,
then,
are
everything
you,
crashed.
are you feeling emotions heavy right now?
What's weird is I am, and I didn't anticipate that.
Yeah,
But
let's pause with that for a second before we run on, because this is what happens with anxiety is we get so sped up into accomplishing things, it becomes this avoidance of feeling what is.
uh,
And so can I pause you for a minute right there and
please,
just
yeah,
have you
absolutely.
share, what are you feeling right now around what you were just sharing?
Um, I would say I'm feeling anxiety about it. And the reason that I'm sharing it is because I feel like it's important for people to see vulnerability. And I feel like it's important for people to see, you know, that, we as human beings, we relate to each other through that sense of our anxieties may be different, but it's, you know, we get each other. So, um, I don't know. I just a frustration maybe too
Mm,
is what it is. A desire, like a longing. I think because the last couple of days, I've really missed my leg. That may sound weird, but I actually get homesick for my leg, and I don't know if that even makes sense. But it's like when I
it
lost it, it
totally
was
makes
you know
sense to me.
similar to it was similar to like a death or something. And so I actually have been really, really homesick for my leg. And just because I was so much, I had the ability to do so much more, and so I miss that. And I try to do what I can, but it'll never be the same. And accepting that is okay. Accepting that is a good thing.
Well, let me pause you, because what I get a sense of with Angie is that she'll
Yeah,
just keep talking.
you're
And
right, and that's an anxiety.
it is. And
That's an anxiety.
what I feel in that is if we can just pause for a minute. Yep.
Yep.
And not say anything, but just feel this, the discomfort of it, the homesickness. The homesickness to me makes so much sense. We have homesickness. I get homesickness about my old life. I get homesickness about um, times where I didn't feel anxiety. I get homesickness.
Right.
Um, my dad passed away when I was 2. So when I was a kid, not having my dad was a big deal to me. You know,
Sure.
huge family, getting lost in the mix. My mom was doing the best she could with what she
Right.
had, but she was struggling, mentally ill. Um, there's homesickness for that, the way it was,
Right.
right? And then it keeps us from,
Totally.
and then from that space, we try and create our future. And so with anxiety, it tends to be this case of we're always trying to project the future and trying to stay. We're never present. We're in this space of we're thinking about everything in the past that occurred, and then from that trying to control the future. And
Uh-huh.
so being present and just being here with that emotion is really challenging, because like what I hear in you, Angie, is I'll just go, 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 go. Right.
And that's totally what it is. And it's a coping method, not
Mm.
necessarily a good one. I'm not saying that it's a good one, but I speed up. It is exactly what happens. And you notice that, which actually makes me laugh because you notice that when I kind of you ask me the question and I just sort of like verbal vomit, if
Yeah.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because
Yeah.
it's like it just goes. And yeah, it's just yeah.
Well, so anxiety is okay. So as a construct, because that's what we're trying to create here, is an operational definition of what anxiety is.
Right.
And it's a really uncomfortable feeling within the body. The adrenaline goes through, and that
Yeah, it does.
adrenaline, it shuts your brain down. So you get some brain fog. And so you're
Right.
not fully cognitively present. You feel maybe tingling in the hands because it's pulling
Yeah.
blood away from your extremities.
Yeah.
It's pumping blood and your heart's pounding, right?
Yep. Oh
And
yeah.
and then through your stomach, like for me, I feel in my stomach like these butterflies,
Yep.
and just this really uncomfortable, intense constriction. And you think about the word anxiety, anger, it's that constriction. And that's exactly what's happening is all of this
Interesting.
cognitive function and all of the extremities are constricting down. And we're starting to feel that pressure and that buildup. And so when you feel that homesickness, it's that cognitive ability to just be able to be present and smell the flowers and think just healthy thoughts. It's that your brain has literally shut off to the point that you're on you're on a mode where it's a lower level energy, lower level thinking. It's just purely your thoughts are just spinning. And
Yeah.
it's not that you can control your thoughts. They just are. And
Well, I just say it's survival mode. That's
yeah,
what I'm like. I'm in survival mode today, you know, like, but that's kind of what that illustrates with
yeah,
what you just said. So
yeah.
yeah.
So that's what we avoid. And so what happens is it comes out in numbing. It can come out in addiction. It can come out in feeling guilty and unworthy and insecure.
Okay.
It can feel we can ruin relationships over it
Right.
because we're so scared, because we're in that survival mode, and we're irrational in that space. Yeah, we don't see the bigger picture. It's because our world is constricted and all we can see is what we can see.
Right. Right.
What comes up for you when you hear that?
Well, I would say two things. That yes, I totally agree with. I agree with that, but there I've also experienced where I almost it's almost like feeling multiple emotions at once, right? It
Yeah.
within that anxiety. So like there's times where like you'll feel this intense, almost pain in a way.
Okay.
And then you but at the same time you feel like I'm a person who does kind of like a lot of I want to say I don't know, self-talk maybe is a good way to
Yeah.
describe it,
Sure.
where I kind of like, okay, Ange, you got this. I'm always like talking to myself that way, like, okay, like giving myself pep talks or
Yeah.
or whatever, talking myself through things, and that's enormously healthy. I feel, and I feel like it's enormously helpful and whatnot. So I feel like
Yeah.
I'm kind of I do both. You know what I'm saying? So yes, it's completely paralyzing, or it can be. But there's
Yeah.
times in my life where it's not completely paralyzing, but
Yeah.
it's there. It's like this I don't know, the crocodile under the surface of the water, like kind of waiting to just get you, do you like the crocodile?
Yeah, I
How
do. I
embarrassing.
do.
I was like, oh,
Well,
I got it. Anyways, how embarrassing. But anyways,
no, not embarrassed. So can I play on that? Because you're describing it as the crocodile coming out of the water. And how we choose to see it is how it will show up for us. So
uh-huh.
if this crocodile's constantly under the water and you don't know, you have this uncertainty that if I go near the water or this thing happens and that crocodile comes out and gets me, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And most people don't die from anxiety. It's from
No.
other things, right?
Right. Or things that are, connected to that.
But there's another way of seeing it. So Bruce Springsteen, I think, was the performer that before every show he would throw up. Like he would be so anxious and nervous. People would say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And you're feeling, are you feeling scared? And he says, "Well, what I've learned is that just means it's go time. It's the same excitement and adrenaline that people would feel if they're going to jump out of an airplane. But the
Right.
difference is that we've made it to mean this isn't exciting. This is terrible. This is dangerous. My life is insecure." And
Right.
so that story that we start to tell. So when you talk about, I go into this mode of talking to myself. It
Yeah. Inner
can be hard.
dialogue.
Yeah. So that inner dialogue really depends on what you're dialoguing about.
Sure. Sure. Exactly. It's interesting that you say that because I feel like over the years I've gone from I struggled with actually part of I think it's connected to my anxiety, but I struggled with an eating disorder.
Okay.
for years and years. And it's only been the last few years that I've really gotten it under control. But I mean, from the time that I was, in ninth grade, I struggled with an eating disorder, and it was a control thing. And it was a lot more out of an anxiety and that need to be or feel or do certain things. So it's interesting because as I look at like my behaviors
Yeah.
and that inner dialogue, that's a huge part of how I've gotten to where I'm at. I would say I'm mentally the healthiest I've probably ever been when it comes with
Yeah.
regards to, anorexia and bulimia. And that's a good thing, but I mean, it also, like you said, was also, it's a two-edged sword, because that dialogue went both ways. And it was interesting to me because as I started to kind of try to manage it and get it under control and started to heal, I started to recognize that my inner dialogue was a disaster.
Hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily because somebody was telling me that I was bad, or somebody that was telling me that I was needed to improve, or this or that, like expectations. It was because I was telling myself I needed to do those things. And so once I realized that um, I needed to be, it's been a journey to learn how to be kind to myself, which I'm still learning. And you could
Yeah.
see that that's
Yep.
something I'm still learning. And I'm very open about that. And I began to like accept, okay, you know, we,
Okay.
we can, we can do this. So,
Yep. Right there. You're hitting it. Like, this is what's worked for me, because anxiety ruled my life, and it dictated everything that I did. And so it would show up, like you said, with your eating disorder. It would
mhm,
show up as an eating disorder, but underneath that, if we were to unwrap that, that eating disorder was a band-aid for the discomfort that you're feeling inside.
oh yeah, definitely.
And addiction is the same thing. It's like, I don't know how to handle this intense emotion, and so I'm going to try and numb it in some way. And it might be shopping, it might be scrolling through Facebook. I still have those behaviors. They're still present for me. I wouldn't
Uh-huh.
call them an addiction, but the compulsion for it is so strong because it helped alleviate some of that discomfort.
Yeah.
And so it became a tool of trying to feel comfort in the discomfort, but
Right,
it
right.
came
Well,
out in
it's
an
like a
unhealthy way.
numbing,
Yeah,
a
go ahead.
numbing agent.
Yeah, keep going with that.
Well, I just was thinking, the times that I, you know, acted out per se. I don't know if that's a good way to say it,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
it was almost like it would numb me, and and I'd keep on going, and
Mm,
I'd put the smile on, and I'd go for, you know, whatever I could do, and help whoever I could help, be the best mom that I could ever be. But there was still this underlying issue, this
yeah.
crocodile,
Yeah.
and you know, uh, I think it's common for a lot of people. Um,
Yeah. I think so
Unfortunately.
too. Well, I see in the comments, there's some comments here. Michelle Coleman has some really good ones. They're big, so they'll block the whole screen. That's why I'm not throwing them out. But they're really good
Love it.
insights, because
Love that.
we're not the only ones that feel anxiety.
No,
And
no.
what you hit on earlier was, you said, I had to learn to accept that it is what it is. Like, for
Mhm.
me, that was the biggest thing. Like, I
Right.
feel
Me too.
anxiety. I wake up in the morning with anxiety. I'll go through the day and I'll feel anxiety. It was in that acceptance that I started to feel relief, because when I resisted it, like,
Mhm.
to resist is go against it. I don't
Right.
want this. I'm going to fight it. It was that resistance that kept it so strong. It's like, I
Yep.
want to be just like everybody else. I want my leg back. I want my old life
Right.
back. That resistance to what is, that was what kept me in it. As soon as I
Interesting.
could accept, I feel anxiety. In fact, I
Right.
might feel anxiety for the rest of my life. It may
Yeah.
never go away. I might be wired in such a way that my adrenals are going nonstop.
Right.
And
Exactly.
because of that, I get to make a choice. Do I let that rule me? Do I resist it and fight that and not perform in life because I want that feeling to go away, or can I accept it and just let it be what it is and then create from that space? I mean, what comes
Right.
up if you hear that?
Well, I've said for years what the way that I really dealt with like my amputations and those surgeries is through acceptance. And so it's interesting because my saying has always been acceptance brings peace. It doesn't mean that you have to like your situation, but
Yeah, there we go.
once you accept it, you can move forward and you can progress and you can heal. And that's ultimately what I needed to do. And I hope that, you know, other people can recognize that, you know, that acceptance does bring peace. And it's not condoning someone else's behavior. It's not
Yeah,
saying that it's okay. It's not doing any of those things. But if you accept that it is, then you can begin to create something better or move beyond what
yeah.
it is, you know. But otherwise it's just going to be that roadblock. And so with me and anxiety, I agree with you. And like I said, that has always been my key, is acceptance brings peace. So I
I'm
always
gonna throw I'm
work
gonna
on that.
throw that up because that's not throw it up in a negative way like barf, right?
Right, there you
Yeah.
go.
So it brings peace. And I think it's the first step in overcoming anxiety, because where I'm at today is completely different from where I was. It is so much more manageable
Right.
right now. And it all stemmed from, wow, this is the way my body works. And I'm not alone. We all have anticipation. Well, let me not throw that in. Let's say many of us have anticipations about the future. There are likely people that don't have the anxiety like we do.
Sure, sure.
And so that anticipation of the future, a lot of that stems from us trying to control it based on what we've experienced in the past. So we take that as a template for the future. And then when it comes to acting in the present, we're doing it from the past and our projections of the future. Well, the future is uncertain. And
Right.
so the past has already occurred, but it's not that's the way it needs. It's not set in stone. It's just
Right.
what occurred, and it was our interpretation of what occurred. And so
Right.
when you start to accept it, you start to rewrite your past, because the memories that you have are shifted through the thinking that you have. So if you had a memory that life was terrible and is traumatic, but then you shift that and that becomes a learning experience and it's no longer
Totally.
traumatic, then you start to operate differently. And
Completely.
so I think, you know, when it gets into anxiety, that acceptance is part of the work of shifting your thinking and shifting your experience around anxiety so that you
Mhm.
can move forward.
I
Um,
completely agree.
Medications, you know, medications, people think, oh, if I take this medication, it's going to cure my anxiety. No, what it's doing is it's mellowing out your emotions, the peaks and valleys. It's
Mhm.
leveling those out so that you can do the work, because you still have to do the work.
Right, right.
So then it's a matter of learning tools.
Sure.
Um, what are some of the medications that are, and it could be traditional or non-traditional, because I have some non-traditional ones that I did to try and cure it.
Right,
What
right.
have you tried to impact your anxiety, and what have
Well,
you found to be effective?
there's, you know, for me, I've been on an antidepressant for about 20 years,
Okay.
and that's been enormously helpful. Over time, um, over the first 10 years that I was on one specific one, and then it became a little bit less effective, and so we switched that up, and it, you know, I was able to um, continue on in my progress and whatnot, and that helped me for the, you know, 10 a good 10 more years. So you know, I was diagnosed with a serotonin deficiency. And so that's actually your happy hormone, which is kind of weird because I'm kind of happy a lot. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
in a lot of ways. I would say I'm, you know, I'm showing my vulnerability and my rawness here, but this is rare for me. Like people, I don't usually show this side, but I feel like it's important for people to see that,
Mm.
even the person who's happiest is dealing with this, possibly even the same challenges as but, whoever is out there, so I mean that it's easy to judge people who are always happy or perceived to be always happy. But yeah, so I was on an antidepressant, and then I was on an anti-anxiety for a little time. That didn't work well with me. And
Yep.
so we tried a different one, and I didn't like that either. And just for simply the same reason, is I felt like it was messing with kind of who I was, like
Yeah.
almost like a numbing agent or something. Now, that was just my experience. And I know everybody's body processes, medications differently.
So I
So,
want to be clear in this that we're not doctors, we're not therapists, we can't prescribe, we can't say take medication, don't take medication. Like you're gonna have to make your own decision if you're watching this.
and never would. And like,
Yep.
I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating for it or against it. I'm
Yep.
just simply stating that what I have done or
Yeah.
dealt with, what has helped me. And there's a stigma attached to using an antidepressant or using
Yep.
that, an anti-anxiety, which is really, really unfortunate because like I can't just tell my body, and make some serotonin. It's not
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
work,
Right.
like
Right.
I'm just getting over COVID, and I can't, I couldn't just tell my body, and, you know, kick that COVID to the curb, that's
Right.
not going to happen. So like, I mean, I think we need to be real
So
about
I
things.
want to talk about some of the non-traditional because I've tried everything and,
Really?
and discovered what works for me and what doesn't. And this is going beyond legal, some of it, because I've
Sure.
tried shrooms, I've tried weed, I did ketamine treatments,
Oh
I
yeah.
tried ayahuasca. So this
Interesting.
is disclosure of another kind for those that are watching. Like
Yeah.
I was looking for anything to feel human again. What I found in each of them is that there was a reprieve for a minute. Weed was the worst for me. It made me
Mhm.
paranoid, and so I
Interesting.
don't touch it. I know that if I drink alcohol, that the next day there's going to be a cost for that because my body, as
Sure.
it clears that out, it's going to feel like anxiety, and I might confuse that with anxiety. And so
Right.
I'm conscious of how much I drink and how often, and
Sure.
so I'm careful with that. The ayahuasca and the shrooms, I had to be really careful with those because I thought I was losing my mind trying
Oh,
those. It was really edgy.
yeah.
Ketamine treatments, I went to a doctor here in Salt Lake who administered ketamine. Um,
Okay.
that that kind of gave me just this realization that I don't have control as
Yeah.
much as I think. You know,
Yeah.
going into the ketamine
Yeah.
treatments, I was on a trip in that ketamine where I had absolutely no control. And
Wow.
all I could do was go along for the ride and trust that coming out the other side, that I would be okay. Because there was a doctor there and everything, and they were watching and monitoring.
Wow.
But I can tell you it was the scariest thing I think I've ever done. And I still have a little trauma around
Uh,
that experience because you're not here. You're somewhere else. And so I feel like that opened me up to realizing that I have a lot more power in letting go than I
yeah.
thought. And so
Right.
I don't like to do these things because um, they do take you out of that space of control, and they can impact your mind in a way that if you're not ready for it, it could throw you off. And so I'm really
Sure.
conscious of saying this is what I did, but I won't say you need to go try this for you.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Like,
So
I've never tried other types of treatments, the more holistic end. And I think it's partly because I did have some success with the medicine that was prescribed to me, for my serotonin deficiency or whatever it was they called it. I don't know the scientific name. Like I said, like you said, we're not doctors. And I'm not even trying to pretend to be a know it all in that aspect. But
yeah,
I just, yeah, I'm a very cautious person because living with you know an addict, my ex-husband, um you know I was always very, very cautious because I didn't want to, that was, I wasn't about to walk down any roads that I thought maybe I would possibly lose control, because I was
Yeah.
already worried about losing control. And and because, what was going on was not appealing to me in any way, and I wanted to protect my kids. And there's obviously a million other reasons why we make the choices that we do. Not saying that holistic treatments or things like that are bad. I'm absolutely not saying that at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm saying I totally respect everyone's individual preferences and their ways of going about finding healing and finding that peace that they need. Um, you
So
know,
so let's speak to that a little bit, because those medications, those treatments, those holistic treatments, yes, that's what I tried to do to try and cure anxiety. And you on your antidepressants, and sometimes you might be on a Valium or a benzo or whatever it is to calm down, but there's still the work that has to be done. And what I found is that those
right,
didn't serve me when it came to doing the work, because what served me was learning to diffuse. So Barry McDonough is one of the best authors that I've seen on anxiety. His book,
interesting.
Dare, Dare, he says that you need to diffuse the emotion, accept and allow it to be present, don't
Uh-huh.
run from it, and then engage with some creation. And so I took his method and started
Interesting.
practicing it. And so if anxiety would come along, it would be like, well, there's anxiety again. This is anxiety. This is what it feels like. And then allowing that to be present. It's okay for it to be here. It's got to
Yep.
be okay. And then
Right.
from there, I'm not running away anymore. If there's a chance of a alligator in the water, well, I want
Yeah.
to see. I want to look him in the eye, like Diana said. I
Right.
want to turn the light on my fears and see what they are for what they are. And
Right.
then engaging in a creation, that's where the book became, and this whole tribe and league became my engagement. This is where I put positive energy into the world, because it gave me something to focus on while those things were present.
That makes sense.
What does that bring up for you?
Well, I think it's interesting that this particular author said that, because like, I get that,
Yeah.
because in the concept of understanding that acceptance brings peace, and learning that and coming to that knowledge, kind of on my own. The way that I began to actively deal with my anxieties was by diverting, and that's how I.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Basically what you said, only it's a different terminology for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would shift what I was doing. It's the way that I look at it is, because as people with anxiety, our mind races 100 miles an hour and
Right.
doesn't slow down, and we're struggling to make any sense of half of what we're thinking. And what I did was, I actively pursued, within myself, the ability to slow down at night, or these or that, different situations, depending on what it is that's making me anxious at the time. And by slowing that down, doing something like diverting my conscious thoughts that are 100 miles an hour, and
Mhm.
to diverting them to something that is um slowed down, that's more controlled, sort of actively shifting that in my mind has always been very, very helpful.
Yeah.
um
So
Kind of
you
like
can,
guided meditation, kind of like
yeah.
guided
Okay.
meditation thing, where you consciously are like letting go of things in your mind, and getting in touch sort of with that essence of your mind and body and spirit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's really interesting to see that we naturally gravitate toward certain behaviors. Like
Right.
the sleep is vital. Mild exercise is vital. I'll go for walks, and I've learned that walking incorporates your whole body and your mind, because when you're walking, you have all this stuff going on around you.
Oh
So
yeah.
visibly, sensory wise, you're picking up all of that. And then the movement gets your heart flowing just a little bit. It's a mild to moderate exercise, so it doesn't bring up cortisol. Because when you
Right.
work out hard, cortisol has to come in and try and offset the damage that you're doing to your body. It reduces the
Yeah.
inflammation. And so
Right.
when people push really hard to exercise, they're bringing more cortisol in, which for me, that triggers me, because when I feel that
Sure.
cortisol close in, I start to get a little panicky.
That makes
And
sense.
so mild to moderate exercise has been really helpful for me. And then being able to, like you said, slow down and be calm. Like when you go to work on something and you're calm in it, and a
Hmm.
project, or you divert that energy, then your body starts to say, hey, we're safe enough to be doing this work. And it starts to calm the mind down, because
Well,
you're,
you
yeah,
get
go ahead.
clarity. You get clarity, and I know I absolutely get that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm currently in school right now, so I went back to college, and um because of my insomnia. That's kind of funny because I was sick of not feeling productive. So
Yeah.
I would read books, or I would do this or that. And one day, I just, I said to, my husband, I was like, hey, you know, um, I think I'm gonna go back to school. Like I'm gonna do something productive with this time because I
Yeah.
can't seem to figure out the insomnia. So um, I'm just gonna go back to school and do night school, and it's worked out really good because I feel a little bit more productive. However, it's like a band-aid
Mm.
for maybe the anxiety or this. It's like a band-aid solution. It doesn't
Right.
fix the insomnia and the anxiety there. So I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know if that makes
It,
sense, but
it does. It does. It's what we do. There is a level of distraction that occurs with it. The
Mhm.
question is, anxiety curable? So far, no. So
Right,
far, nobody has a cure for anxiety.
right.
So for now, what we have to rely on is tools to be able to manage it,
That's
and
what I was
that
gonna say. It's manageable.
it is manageable. And I may feel anxiety, but it definitely doesn't rule my life anymore.
Sure, sure.
And so, like, if a medication helps you to do that, then by all means, you go talk to a doctor and see if that would be a fit for you. Sleep, mild to moderate exercise, the tools like diffusing
Right.
that energy and directing it somewhere healthy and allowing it. The big thing, like you said, is accepting and allowing that
Yep.
to be present, because then you get a chance to fully feel it.
Right.
And I think fully feeling that emotion of, what does it feel like in my body right now? This is so uncomfortable. I could feel it,
Yeah.
down my neck, and my pressure, my brain closing in. And it's like, what does that feel like? And
Right.
letting you just go through and experience it. That's where you start to have a shift, because then it becomes
Right.
acceptable, and then you don't feel the guilt and shame for it.
Right. Right. Well, it's liberating to realize that you are actually allowing yourself to feel those things. Like because that's you taking control of a situation that feels very out of control. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So I love that. I want to post this one up from Diana. We all have metaphorical alligators in our pond. Acceptance, integration, and loving it as a piece of yourself. Nurture it, and knowing can help to move the alligator. Does that make sense? It does make sense. It's just,
Absolutely.
that might be your pet alligator. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Right. I've just got a crocodile just hanging out under the water,
yeah,
and I just need to give him a name and just, we coexist,
yeah.
and I'm better now than I have been for years, I mean, like I'm so grateful, just so grateful, beyond grateful. Um, it's I don't know, it's a journey for sure.
Well, what's coming up right now for me is the homesickness for your leg, right?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
That is not, it's not going to go away. You might have that the rest of your life, right?
I know I will. And it's interesting because there's an ebb and a flow of it. There's certain times of
Mhm.
year or just certain activities that like I want to do or something like that. And you feel a sense of loss, and it doesn't ever go away. And that's okay because, I mean, there everyone has something that that they struggle with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you've lost a family member, maybe you have a chronic illness, maybe you have you know it just a child that has an illness, or you just never know. People's challenges are vast and complicated, and so my challenge, I don't want it to make it out to be any worse than anyone else's. It's just that I I that homesickness is a struggle sometimes for my leg. I used to work out all the time. I used to run. I used to, jump on the tramp with the kids, and I was incredibly active.
Yeah.
And so losing that um is, is kind of it's a blow. It's a huge blow. Um and knowing that I won't get exactly what I had back, it can be
Yeah.
also really difficult, and that's okay though, because I mean, when in life do we get what we had? you know I mean, like, the past is the past for a reason, and so I try to spend my life not dwelling on the past, but sometimes the present is where I get stuck in this little cycle of anxiety, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I want to hit on this because what we're trying to do as humans, my view of this is we're trying to make sense of events. Like an event happened, like your leg is amputated. That's an event. What it
Yeah.
means is independent. And so when we make it mean that I'll never be the same and I can't, the truth is you can't do a lot of things. But if it means that you're less than, and that's what you've given it meaning of, then you start to act from that space of this is what that means, because how I want to experience it, that event, which is a neutral event,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean anything. It's a lot of people have lost their legs, and I'm not one of them. And so I speak this trying to understand,
Sure.
it could be a loss of a loved one, or like you said.
Yeah,
But
or many millions of different things.
so when you can accept it's not coming back, but also to accept that you really don't have control over the future. Like down the road, you couldn't have predicted your leg would be gone at this time.
Nope.
And so to control for that, we want to have this sense of control. So we try and do everything we can to stop something from happening. And it happens anyway.
Right.
And so we spend all this energy like trying to prevent things from happening.
Right.
And it's when you can accept, like, I can't bring back the past to the present. I can't change what occurred. And I
Right.
also can't change what's going to occur in a
Right.
degree here. The more I can let go, the more I can focus in on the present of do what I can do right now.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you said the word let go, because that's been kind of one of my things that I've talked about, for years, is letting go of things that you can't control, and just embracing the now, embracing what you can control, and shifting into making those things a priority. I feel like that I can definitely do better on that when it comes to my leg, and the lack of it. It's something that it won't ever change. It's not going to grow back. I'm not, a lizard that lost its tail, or a starfish. I'm not going to grow a whole new body. It's not going to work like that. So, and that's okay. And I find a lot of humor in it, and I find a lot of, I have my own way of just kind of dealing with it and accepting it. And so I think, I I think for the most part, I accept the fact that it's happened. I mean, I'm going on 5 years, for almost 5 years this year, from my initial amputation. And so I've come a long way, but I think we always have room to improve,
Yeah. Man, I want to honor you because you're sharing kind of your inner world.
Yeah.
When I go back and I think of your interview that we did, you're just so positive. And I love that you're opening up here and showing, look, I can feel positive, and this is what's going on underneath that.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Right. Well, and I think that it's important for people to see authenticity,
Yep.
because I mean, there's so many times that we see people who have maybe a message to give, and they seem like it's all roses and, daisies and roses.
Right.
When in reality, they're human, and there's something underneath. They've got crocodiles there underneath.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just showing you sort of my crocodiles in that swamp, and being real about that, helping to give that message that it's okay to feel, and
Yeah.
it's okay to have that anxiety. Is it okay to let it rule your life? Probably not the best thing to let yourself do with it, but there are ways to move forward. And
Yeah.
I feel like giving people hope. I'd love to give people hope,
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm in a managed state of an eating disorder right now. I have so much to be grateful for on so
Yeah.
many levels, and it it's about I don't know. There's this saying, when you focus on the good gets better, and um, it's so true. It's where's your focus? So
I want to post this up. There's a comment here that I want to hit on real quick, and
yeah.
we're at the hour. Are you okay on time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. Yeah.
The one is, you're doing better than you might think, right? We judge ourselves pretty harshly, but we're doing better than we think. And so giving grace to that we're doing pretty good that way. That most of us have crocodiles.
Yeah.
There are people that don't. There are.
Really.
By odds,
that's
by
crazy.
numbers, it's got to be. They say, a small percentage of the population in a given year will have anxiety. And by number, it's a lot of people. But if you factor in the whole world, there's 7 billion people in the world. So if 100 million people had anxiety, that's 0.09, like 0.0132% of the population, or something along those lines. I mean, it's such a small percentage. And so by odds, there are people that don't experience this, that don't know what it's like to feel anxiety.
Right. Well, right? and good for them. I mean, I'm happy for them, man.
It's not me. Yeah. So I wanted to hit on this one. After my family lost my 17-year-old brother in a horrible accident, one of the things I remember my mom say was that all my worrying that I did as a mother for him couldn't save him from that accident. That's always stuck with me. That's
heartbreaking.
What I hear in that is that things are going to happen. Events are going to occur. Traumas are going to happen. Neglect is going to happen. We can't necessarily prevent those things from happening. We would love to. We would love to be able to predict the future and control it. But that's the problem right there, is that we're trying to predict the future and project into the uncertainty our views and try and control for that in the present. And so we live our lives controlling, and it's in that letting go, that acceptance that we can't change it, that nothing that we could have done would have changed Angie losing her leg. Nothing. There may be certain things where there can be some level of control and preventing the outcome, but in most cases, it's going to be what it's going to be. What are you going to do with it?
Right. Well, and something that I've always said is, I look at where I am now, and, going through divorce, going through, all the surgeries, the amputations, things like that. And I look at, I'm with my amazing husband and my amazing children, I wouldn't have met him had I not gone through this. Yeah. And in all honesty, I look back and I think, because somebody once asked me, if you could change something, would you? And I look back and I think, no. And I wouldn't. I'll tell you why, is because it has given me more than it has taken away. Wow. And my husband is, my lifesaver. Yeah, I'm gonna get emotional.
Uh,
you know and I feel so fortunate to have that now in my life, and um to have someone who lifts me up and accepts me for who I am. And because I was worried when you're divorced and you're a new amputee, you're newly divorced, you worry, is someone gonna love me, or is someone gonna,
mhm.
the anxiety of,
Yeah, yeah,
is someone gonna want to take on this girl with one leg, and and the baggage, because we all have baggage, but some of our baggage is kind of visible, like in my case, I've got some
yeah.
visible baggage because I don't have a leg, but um yeah, bottom line is, yeah, it's hard, but I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't. And I mean, that, the honest truth is, evolving and growing is a journey. And when you embrace that journey and you accept it, it
Mhm.
brings peace. Back
And
to what we've talked about.
and sometimes it's just one small step a day. Sometimes it's one little
Yeah,
thing and moving into it, not away from it, like moving toward
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Right, right.
So,
Exactly.
man, you're just such a great, I just want to say I love you as a human. You're just
Oh,
such a
thank
great human.
you.
It's just to hear that you're battling a lot, and you're still creating, and you're still creating in the way that you can and the way that you want, and you're still moving forward. And that's the biggest thing, is just keep pushing play, keep showing up, keep working, take one step today if that's all you can do.
Right.
And just when you can accept that that's where we are in our journey, like that's what I hear most in you, is that you accept that this is what it is. And so
Yes,
from there, what can I create with what is? And
exactly.
that's so powerful. It's so
Right.
powerful. So
Well, it's
thank you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
How
you're
do you feel?
welcome.
Yeah. I keep talking
Honestly,
over you.
I feel great. No, you're good. We keep talking, like you go, and then and I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
okay. It's actually just kind of funny. So, but
Yeah.
no, I feel great, and I love that, that I've had this. I love that I've had this opportunity to do the park bench and to just be able to get a little bit raw and a little bit emotional and show that, that it's okay to do that. And
Mm.
does that, and show that it doesn't make me weird. It doesn't make me, um I don't know. I'm not embarrassed. I guess I'm one of those people who kind of wears my heart on my sleeve. What you see is what you get. And I feel like that, for me, that's the best way to be.
Yeah.
So
Now you got me crying. Like, yeah. Well, this is what it's about, and I know there's a lot of tribe members that suffer with anxiety. I think this will be very serving for them.
I
If
hope
I,
so. That's why I wanted to do this. So thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And it's a little different format. Usually we'll do some coaching, but this has been a blend of both. It's been a sharing and a coaching. And so I
Yeah,
love it.
I
Yeah.
love
Awesome.
it. I
Well,
feel
thanks
like,
for being on.
well, thank you for having me. And yeah, I look forward to watching and seeing more of the park bench,
Yeah, we'll keep
all
it
the other
going.
benchies. So
All the other benches. We need more.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you get bored, you hit me up. I'll bench again.
That'd be awesome. I think people will take you up on it. So that would be
Oh
awesome.
no.
Yeah.
Shoot. Well, I hope so. I hope I'm not driving people crazy.
Yeah.
So
Well, thanks for
anyway.
being on. Everybody that's watching, thanks for your contributions, your thoughts. I didn't share a lot of them, but in the comments, as you go back through, there's some really good comments that came up.
I'm so glad.
Um,
I'll go back and read them.
yeah, I think they will serve the entire tribe. So we'll see you on the next episode of the Park Bench. I think we're back next week. And when I say we, I talk about myself in the plural. It's not weird at all.
No,
Right?
that's not weird. Me, myself, and
Yeah,
I. We got
it's
this.
just all three of us.
Right.
So we'll be back next week with another episode. I think after February, I go to every other week, just so that I can have a day off. I need a day off, so that's
Yeah,
where
I
I
feel
want
like
with that.
that's a good idea. Slow
Yeah,
down. Yeah,
yep.
slow down a bit.
So that works, guys. Thanks for being here. Make it a giant day, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right. See you later.